Good morning. This is Miss Villarreal. We will not have Zoom today, Monday, November the 30th. But although we do not have Zoom, you do have an assignment that needs to be completed, and you have an attendance form that needs to be filled out. So if you notice here on your assignment, the attendance form that you need to do first before you start watching, finishing the video. I'm sorry, you have to have watched it already, right? Started. Please fill out this attendance form, and then you can go and complete your Jamboard for today. Okay, once you have completed the attendance form, you can open up the Jamboard and get started. Okay, slide 1 is a warm-up slide. If you notice, the pink dots or red dots, whatever color you see, represent -1. So take that into consideration before you write the equation. Okay, remember when you have a model or a picture, all we're doing is writing the equation based off of the picture we have. Okay, so go ahead and give it a try. Press pause on the video, try to write the equation, and then you can press play to check your answer. Okay, so hopefully you wrote 2x minus 1, and the equal sign was already there, so equals x minus, and I set up the equal sign there for you already because it was splitting up the problem, right? It was split up. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so on slide 2, what I want you to do is to identify each part of the equation, right? So on the left side, I want you to find the variable. On the left side, I want you to find the coefficient, and then I want you to find the constant. Okay, then I want you to do the same thing on the right-hand side. You can just draw a line from the word variable to the actual variable in the problem. So for example, you can do this. Okay, so as long as I know that you know what each of the parts represent. Okay. Okay, once you're done with this one, actually I want you to go back to slide 1. So go back to slide 1. Okay, we're going to solve the equation using the model. Okay, so remember when we are solving now, we take things off of the scale if they're the same on both sides, right? Notice how you have you have x's on the left and you have x on the right. So that means we can take off x's. You've got these red circles on both sides, so you can take off what you can from each side, right? So I'm going to take off 1x from the left. That means I have to take it off from the right. Remember, we keep it balanced. I'm going to take off a red dot on the left, so that means I'm going to take 1 off on the right. So my final answer is x equals 1, 2, 3. So x is equal to -3. I want you to write that somewhere so you can keep that in mind. X equals -3. That's our final answer. We solved it because we took things off of the scale. Okay, and we used a model to help us do that. Now let's move on. You should have already done slide 2, identified the variable, coefficient, and constant. So that way it's easier for us to do slide 3. Remember, this is the one where we're solving the equation by hand. So I set it up for you. I split up the problem, right? Our next step is to move the x that is smaller. So I've got a 2x on this side, and I've got a 1 because there's an imaginary 1 there, right? So I know that this 1 is smaller. So remember, we do opposite operations. So I'm going to subtract 1x from both sides. Notice how I'm lining it up with my x, right? Okay, I'm just going to switch the color so I can cross out the things that are the same, and I'm just going to extend my line. Okay, cross out the things that are the same, right? Opposites are the ones that cancel out because they just become 0, right? So on the right-hand side, I'm just bringing down my -4. That just comes down. On this side, I've got to actually do what it's telling me, right? So 2 minus 1 is just 1x, right? I'm bringing down my minus 1 because I haven't done anything with it, right? Just going to bring down my equal sign. Now I can do opposite of my constant. Remember, constant is the number that's alone or by itself. It's either being added or subtracted, right? So here's my constant. I'm going to do opposite of that. So opposite of minus 1 would be plus 1. So let's do that to both sides. Okay, remember, opposites just cancel each other out because they either become 0 or 1. So on this side, I'm left with 1x equals, we do the operation on this side, negative 4 plus 1. Remember, on a number line, if you're at negative 4 and you're adding, right, you're getting closer and closer to 0. So if you add 1, right, you only go one time to the right and you're at negative 3. So x is equal to negative 3. And then remember, we would divide by whatever number we've got. So if we divide by 1, remember, it just gives us what we originally have. So x is equal to negative 3. Okay, and if you remember, on slide 1, we had the same equation, right? Except we used a model to help us solve, right? So when we did it by hand, you should be getting the same answer, except you don't have a picture this time. Okay, so now we're going to be moving to solving equations using the calculator. The way we're going to do that is by graphing each of the sides. Okay, so if we move to slide 5, okay, our checklist is to still put our line down the equal sign, so that way you know that there's a left side and a right side still. We're going to write each side as an equation. Okay, we're going to use y equals to help us get started for both sides. Okay, once we have our two equations written, we're going to graph each of them. We're going to find the point of intersection, and then we want to know what is the x value of that point. Okay, so you are going to need Desmos for the next part. Okay, so go ahead and go find Desmos. Remember, it's in our Google Classroom. It's under the resources section. Okay, so classwork. I'm just going to go to resources on the very bottom. So resources, very bottom. It's the bottom link. It's already there. Click it. It'll take you to graphing calculator, start practice. Okay, this is what we need to see right here, ready for us to type in our equation. Okay, what I did was I went ahead and I split my screen so you can see what I was doing on both my Jamboard and my Desmo. So I just have it open here, ready for me to type. On my Jamboard, slide number 6, if you notice, now we're going to solve the equation by graphing. Okay, so that means I'm still splitting up my problem, right? If I follow my checklist, I'm going to write an equation for each side. So I'm going to take this whole left side and I'm going to say y equals, and I'm just going to write what I see right there, 2x minus 1. That's one of your equations. Okay, so on the right-hand side, I start with y equals, I just take what I see on the right, x minus 4. So now I'm going to go graph both of those, one at a time. So in Desmos, I'm going to type y equals, actually I don't want it capital, y equals, my equation is 2x minus 1, so 2x minus 1, and I'm going to hit enter. So it graphed my line for me. Okay, I'm going to graph the next one. Y equals, and then it's just x minus 4, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so what you have to do now is you've got to find the point where your lines intersect, right? So the point is, if you click on it in Desmos, it pops up and it stays there, right? So it's -3, -7. I'm going to write that down. So over here in my Jamboard, I'm going to write -3, -7. Okay, and then you see, notice here in the green, I asked, what is the x? So I want to know which of these numbers is the x value, because that is what my answer is. Remember, if we label x, y, your x is the first number always. So x is equal to -3. And which we already knew it was -3 because we solved it using a model. We solved it by hand. And now we solved it by graphing. So you have options now of how you want to solve equations. Whether you want to use a picture. Okay, remember you can draw these x's and circles to help you. You can solve it by hand, like slide 3, or now you have the option of solving by graphing. Okay, so go ahead and get started on slide 7. Okay, go ahead and press pause on the video, then you can come back and check yourself to see if you are on the right track, and then I'll explain what the rest of the slides are. Okay, so hopefully you have already written the equations and you are just checking your work to make sure you're on the right track. So our problem was split up, left side and the right side. The y equals was already there for me. Y equals, all I did was I took the left side and I said 2x minus 1. And then I took the right side, -1/2 x plus 4. And now I'm ready to go and graph. Okay, so in Desmos, I'm going to type y equals 2x minus 1. And then I'm going to type y equals, you can set up the fraction already. Remember, if we have a fraction, I like to put the fraction first. So we do negative. Remember, fraction is just the divide button. 1/2 x plus 4. You hit enter. Okay. You find the point where your lines intersect. If you click it, it gives you the actual coordinates, 2, 3. So that's what I'm going to write here. Okay, the lines intersect at 2, 3. What is the x value? X value of that is, remember it's x, y. So x is equal to 2. And that's our final answer. Okay, so go ahead and use these examples so that way you can decide which method you like the best. Okay, you have 3 problems to work on. Slide 8, 9, and 10. Slide 11 is a challenge slide. You've got the equation already. There's an x here, and you've got some answer choices to see what x is equal to. Once you are done with the rest of the remaining slides, you can stop and go turn this in. If you have any questions, let me know.